1 in 4 Americans don't seek out care because they think the system is too complicated. So that's something that we have to change.
Joyce Greggs is the founder of United States of Healthcare, a movement empowering people, especially Gen X women, to become leaders of their own health, not just patients of the system. Wow, you've been working on this for a while, right?
We wound up in a healthcare danger zone, and I was shocked with everything I know about what it takes to navigate this system and everything that I did to try to circumvent this, yet we're still here. I remember thinking, how do mere mortals do this?
Getting a second opinion and the importance of really taking action for yourself.
I think the world would be a healthier place, to tell you the truth, because we'd be taking care of ourselves in a different kind of way.
Hi, welcome to Radical TV. I'm Shawna Smith. Joining me here today is Joyce Greggs. She is a healthcare communications and marketing expert and the founder of the United States of Healthcare. It's a mission-driven platform dedicated to building a nation of health self-advocates to help people take the lead in their healthcare to get the answers and plans that are right for their lives and for their health. She has more than 20 years of experience supporting leading medical organizations and nonprofits. Hello, Joyce. How are you?
Hi, Shawna. I'm really well. How are you?
Perfect. I would love to hear a little bit more about what you do.
Okay. So what I do is I create resources and materials for people, specifically working with Gen X women right now, because they're in the sandwich. They're taking care of themselves, they're taking care of their kids, they're taking care of their parents, oftentimes taking care of a spouse when it comes to their health care. So what I'm really about is helping people learn how to advocate for themselves, because we look at health advocacy as an essential life skill, sort of like financial planning. Right. 1 in 4 people don't get health care. There's a Kaiser Family Foundation study that says 1 in 4 Americans don't seek out care because they think the system is too complicated. So that's something that we have to change.
Oh, wow. You've been working on this for a while, right?
Yes, I have. I actually conceived of United States of Healthcare in 2018 because of like many of us, I came to this because of something personal that happened in my life. So as you mentioned in my bio, I've worked in healthcare communications for many years. I know how the system works. I know doctors. I know leading thought leaders across the globe. So I know what it takes to navigate even complex situations. And my husband at the time had knee replacement surgery, and due to some other conditions that he had that coexisted along with this major surgery, we wound up in a healthcare danger zone. And I was shocked because I had tried to do everything I could to make sure we didn't go into the danger zone, because I knew it was a potential. And yet we wound up in the danger zone. And I remember thinking, with everything I know about what it takes to navigate this system and everything that I did to try to circumvent this, yet we're still here. How do mere mortals do this? How do people live is really what I thought. And so I began to think about what could I do to change that.
Wow. Is that kind of the moment you were like, okay, I know so much already. Someone like me who doesn't know really, anything. And is that the moment you kind of went, oh, I can help other people?
Well, that's exactly it. I can remember standing in my kitchen and I was talking with the home care nurse that was helping us in the family. And, we were talking through all these things that we had to do. And he looked at me and he said, "You're an advocate." And it was kind of a simple statement. Well, my hair stood on end, like on my arms and so on. And I just got a chill through my body. And I was like, first of all, I thought, no, I'm not. And then I thought, yes, I am. I need to do something. And what does it mean to be an advocate?
Yeah. So tell us about your method. What is your process? How does it work?
So the way it works is we start with the visit, right? The doctor visit, the nurse practitioner visit, whatever healthcare provider you're seeing, because that's where the rubber meets the road, essentially, right? In terms of getting the care that we need. There's a whole constellation of other things that go into health self-advocacy, but we start with the visit because that is the common denominator, and that is the foundational place. In other words, how do I prepare for the visit? What do I say during the visit? I'm actually the leader of the visit, not the doctor. And so many of us, go in, people have said to me, very accomplished people, yeah, I pretty much think I've wasted most of my doctor visits because I just go in there and expect something to happen. I would never go into a business meeting that way. For example, if you're a business person, or if you're a project manager, or whatever it is you do, in your everyday life, you go in prepared. And that's the first step.
Wow. That is something I've never thought of. I expect them to take the lead. And so it's kind of the opposite.
It's exactly the opposite. And that is the thing, that's the best kept secret, really, that no one ever tells us. And then it's like, okay, if I'm supposed to be the leader, well, how the heck do I go about doing that? And the most important thing we can do, because, the system is built for speed, not for care. Everyone can identify with that. And that's a global issue, by the way. When I talk to my friends who live in China, Europe, they say it's exactly the same thing because they read my social media posts. And so what it really boils down to is the system is built for speed, not for care and connection. And the doctors don't like it either, but yet, okay, I've limited time. So if we don't go in with, these are the 2 things or the 3 things, hey, doc, here's the 2 or 3 things that I want to discuss today, and list them, 1, 2, 3, because they're going to interrupt you in about 20 seconds. There are data that show this. So it's really like, just know your opening line and then take it from there. And then always take notes and have questions at the ready that are redirecting questions. This is what I recommend to everyone. When I mean a redirecting question, like the doctor's going so fast and okay, you get the overwhelming feeling and you're like nodding your head and it's just flying through your head. It's going in one ear, out the other. That's when you say, Doc, could we just slow this down for a minute? Could you repeat that for me one more time? I want to check my notes to make sure I got that right. Things like this that work no matter what kind of visit you're having to really come back to center and also become that leader in that visit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, take us more. Is there more with your process that we should know about before we move on?
No, I think we can move. There's a lot more to say about the visit, but I think, people can visit the website and they can check out the tools and we can move on. Yeah.
And this goes for anybody. Really, any doctor visit, like you said, because you get in there and they do go so fast and they're so quick to prescribe you something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing. Joyce, what is the biggest lie that your target audience has been told that you've discovered is actually completely false?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest lie is that we're consumers when it comes to healthcare. We're leaders when it comes to our healthcare, and it's partnership. And I think the thing that people don't realize is that not that the doctor wants to be challenged. I don't mean they want to be challenged, but when we question them, even let's say the second opinion, I think that's the biggest sticking point that people have. How am I going to ask for a second opinion? They'll get upset with me. They'll, all these things that run through our heads. Okay, they're not going to be upset with us. That is the thing. What they're going to think of is like, oh, wow, this is a person who is really invested in their health care. And they'll take you even more seriously. So that's the one that I like to always give as the example, because that's the one that always it shakes people's heads a little bit. When we ask questions, when we come in prepared, we get better healthcare. There are data from national organizations like the CDC that show that better outcomes and fewer hospitalizations when we're engaged.
And, did you believe this lie yourself ever?
I honestly was one of those people. I was a member of the once a year club. I mean, I would go see my OBGYN as a primary care doctor. And I remember her saying, I'm taking your blood because God knows when the next time is that you're going to see a doctor. So because prevention also fits into this. Like, it's one thing if you have a condition or, of women, in this age group that we're speaking about in their mid 40s to early 60s, they're all going through perimenopause and menopause. So these are all issues that are, front and center. But honestly, if you have zero on your plate, except I'm a healthy person, there's always preventative moves that we need to be taking. And we need to be asking our doctors about that. So I just went along to go along until I realized that no, my health is my biggest investment that I have on planet Earth. It's not so much what I have in my 401k, but what do I have in my health bank? And what do I want my health span to be versus my lifespan?
And what's the real cost when people believe this lie, Joyce?
Well, I mean, the cost is that we want to live a healthy health span, right? So our lifespan, it can be up to 100 years old, when in fact, our health span is only about 62, 63 on average in the US. I don't want to live 30 years in poor health, frail, not being able to get up off the floor, all of these different things. So I think when we take on a role like being our own health advocate, at first, of course, we think about, well, if I have a condition or if I'm taking care of somebody who has a serious condition. But actually, as you get deeper and deeper into it, you begin to realize, oh, wait, this is about my whole perspective on my life. And it becomes a foundational mindset that allows for everything else that I want to have in my life.
Mm-hmm. What was happening in your life when you realized that the old way wasn't working?
Well, for me, what it was when I had this situation with my former husband, when I saw just how we had his primary care doctor who he'd been seeing for 20 years, his orthopedic surgeon who'd known him for also years. Now we had a neurologist on the team. We had his psychiatrist on the team who'd been seeing him for years as well. So we have these 4 healthcare providers, 3 of them with long-term relationship with him. And none of them knew the right hand did not know what the left hand was doing. When I look back on that time, I was frightened for his life. And I thought, no one should have to go through this. And we had home care coming in because after you have a surgery like that, they send you home right away after knee replacement. And then they bring in the nurse and they bring in the physical therapist. And I would talk to each of them after their visit. And I would say, you've noticed all of these different things that's happening with him. Can you please report this back? But they wouldn't report it back because it would cause a problem. And so that shocked me. And I would then call and speak to supervisors and explain to them what was going on. And then from that, I actually got more information about what I should do next.
Wow. Mm-hmm. What finally made you say enough is enough?
Well, it was this situation, and knowing that with everything that I knew, I couldn't be silent. I needed to put this out there. And what I've come up with at this point is, if you look right now at all of the condition-specific organizations that are out there that are amazing, you can go get information if you get a condition. But when it comes to health self-advocacy, which is so important to the longevity of our lives, it's all scattered and it's all everywhere. And it's maybe condition specific, but if you're still searching for a diagnosis, which is the case for many women who represent most of the people with autoimmune diseases, which take years to diagnose, and you're out there in this very sensitive time, you need somewhere to go. And so it really makes the case for a foundational place. And that's why I came back to United States of Healthcare and wanted to make this hub available across not only for individuals, but for patient advocate organizations, clinicians, because the system is broken. It needs to be fixed. But if we as individuals can come a little bit more prepared, things are going to go better.
Do you have a specific type of person or client that you like to work with, or?
Well, I mean, when it comes to working with people, of course, it's always fun to work with people who have some awareness. But honestly, I like to work with the people who are coming with an open heart of like, well, what can I do? And how can I do it? Because that's what really it takes. And are willing to give something new a try, because it's sort of a new way of looking at the way that we manage our health and think about our health.
Who specifically do you feel called to serve?
Well, I mean, honestly, this is going to sound lofty, but I feel called to serve humanity. So this is, the mission is to create a nation of health self-advocates. The mission is to create multi-nations of health self-advocates, because as I have been living outside of the US and meeting other people across the globe, this is something that we all need. So that's who I feel called to serve at the end. And right now I'm starting with Gen X women, because they're the ones with the most need in terms of what they're called to do right now when it comes to healthcare in the United States, because of their role for themselves, for their children, for their spouses, for their parents. They're actually known as the chief healthcare officers of the family. So I'm starting with them because I see that as the most need, but really it's humanity.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything that breaks your heart about what you see happening in your industry?
Well, I think the thing that's most upsetting to me is when I see people who are afraid to ask. Or I think about my uncle who he died of a heart attack. He was so afraid that he locked himself in his bathroom. His wife was trying to get him to come out. The EMS came and he wouldn't come out of his bathroom because he was just so petrified. Now, if he had allowed them in, what could have the difference had been for him? And so I think that if we can make our peace with the healthcare system and break down some of these barriers so that we realize that it's for us, that I think there'll be less suffering.
What would the world look like if everybody knew what you know?
I think the world would be a healthier place, to tell you the truth, because we'd be taking care of ourselves in a different kind of way. And even in complicated systems that don't work very well, things would be better, because also then people would just naturally network, because that's the human condition. I see myself as a connector, not as somebody who's actually doing something, but of connecting ideas, connecting concepts, connecting resources, connecting people to one another.
Mm-hmm. Paint me a picture of success. When someone works with you and goes through your method, what kind of things can they expect?
Well, they can expect to have more confidence. They can expect to feel like they have more control in a system where there isn't a lot of feeling of control, and with health where you really do feel like you're not in control of what's happening to you. So I think there's a sense of confidence, of control, and also community. And I think those are the three most important things.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a story for me of a client that you've worked with and helped walk them through some of this stuff and what the outcome was for them? Obviously, no names, but just kind of an example.
I mean, I won't say anything in particular, because first of all, I don't work with clients. So I don't have that kind of business. But here's the kind of feedback that I get from people is, Joyce changed our lives and, saved our lives. These are the kinds of things. I didn't do it. I just merely connected them up with certain things that they could follow up with that made the difference in the long run, because it becomes tenacity is really what it boils down to. I've had other people say to me, we reevaluate the way we look at our relationship with our doctors, and that's everything.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And when you talked a little bit earlier about, getting a second opinion
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of really taking action for yourself,
Yeah.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it
Because
is.
maybe they have it wrong. Who knows,
That's right. I mean, and the other thing is, for example, my sister was diagnosed with a rare, incurable cancer, as the people at Sloan Kettering said, it's bad luck cancer, and she lived about a year. But when we went to, and I always recommend to people, when you get a serious diagnosis, you always want to go to an academic medical center like Memorial Sloan Kettering for cancer, or a university, right, that's connected to a university. And so she went to Duke because she lived in that area, and the doctor had never treated the cancer. And so, we went to Sloan Kettering instead. And so you always want to ask them, have you treated this condition before? And if so, with how many people, and what was the outcome for your patients, and so on and so forth. I mean, we would ask this of any, if you met with an accountant, would you want to have your accountant do your taxes if you own property, but your accountant had never dealt with real estate accounting? You would say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to pass because you're not right for me. So this is the same thing when we're evaluating doctors. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean that they're the right doctor for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's the power. I mean, it's a way of thinking. It's a mindful way of thinking.
Yeah.
That is blocked in some cases.
Yeah, it's absolutely blocked because of the way we're brought up to think about doctors. And so we do even have a guide on the website in terms of how do you interview a doctor. I recommend to people, look, just get to know your doctor. Even if you have to pay for a consultation visit to sit down with them and ask them these questions, get to know them. Because let's say you have a great doctor, you think this is an excellent doctor, and you're right, they are. But let's say we use this expression, people know what it means, they don't have a good bedside manner. Some doctors don't, but they're a great doctor, and you don't want to give them up. But when you go into that office, that bedside manner gets you. You have an emotional response to it. It shuts you down. It scares you. It whatever. Fill in the blank. If we know in advance, oh, I have this kind of response to the doctor, you can mitigate that, right? Because we're adults. We can go in and we can ground ourselves before we go in to meet with Dr. X and say, okay, we know Dr. X brings up this response in us. We know Dr. X is an excellent doctor. We have chosen to come back to Dr. X because they're an excellent doctor, and we're going to overlook this because it's not important. When it becomes important, then you might have to make a change. But these are the things that we talk about, that this is the layered approach to what does it mean to be your own health advocate.
Mm-hmm. And as you alluded to earlier, when you do have more of a complicated case, and you have multiple people involved, that is so important that everybody is on the same page. And that comes down to you, which is another thing you wouldn't have expected.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the difficulty in our system. So when I talk to people about, one of the pillars of, talk about there's like 8 pillars of health self-advocacy. Obviously, you don't give that to somebody and say, drink from the fire hose. But as you begin to build these muscles, you're like, okay, well, now you're building a team. So, and I was talking earlier, like, let's say you don't even have a condition. If you have a complex condition, the team gets built. Well, who needs to be on that team? Some personal people outside of the medical field that you trust who can help you with the coordination of the care. Because you probably know somebody who loves spreadsheets, and they'll put everything into a spreadsheet for, how can I help you? I don't know how I can help you. But I like spreadsheets, and they can put everything in a spreadsheet for you. I mean, I've had this happen in my experience, and help you to manage everything that you have to manage, follow-ups, all these types of things. It's really important to have trusted friends and family as part of our team, especially if we have a condition that requires multiple specialists. And the other unsung hero is the pharmacist, the community pharmacist, because if you do have a condition that requires multiple specialists, it probably requires multiple medications. And the doctors don't know about all the side effects of all the medications and the interactions between the drugs. I know this sounds like people are like, what? What do you mean? It's like, well, it's true. And so it's important to have a pharmacist on your team, a community pharmacist, if you go into the community to get your medicines, because they can look at your list of medications and they are the medication experts and they're going to know in a heartbeat. These 3 drugs together are going to cause you to have swelling in your leg, for example.
That is the other part of it, is sometimes these medications throw people off. Yeah, that makes sense too.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't realize it was a global issue too. You brought that to my attention today. It's not just here in the United States, it's globally, and that's concerning as well.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about the US system and we get singled out because of the way we pay for our healthcare, because usually we get and people think of insurance as healthcare, but we usually are insured through our employers in the US. That's not the case in most of the rest of the world because they have nationalized healthcare systems. But like anywhere in the world, if you have money, you can bypass the system and get ahead of the line and get certain kinds of care and things like this. So it's at the end of the day, we have to learn how to stand up for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, Joyce, pleasure talking to you today. How can people find out more about you and get connected with you?
They can get connected with me. Well, first of all, they can write me if they want to get connected with me at joyce@usofhc.com and then unitedstatesofhealthcare.com. And they'll find all our resources there.
Okay. A couple more questions. What's changed in your life since working with the radical company that you did not expect?
Well, I'll tell you, I did expect miracles working with the radical company. So I can't say that it's unexpected, but what I can say is the generosity of the principles of the radical company is quite moving. And it's been a real pleasure to work with them.
And if you're talking to someone that's considering the Radiverse, what would you tell them about your experience?
Well, I would say here's your opportunity to work with people who have built significant businesses multiple times, who are working with some of the top people right now in our country in terms of what it takes to build a business. And they come with open hearts. So they're business people with open hearts who they want to give. And that's pretty amazing. And they will do the logistics for you. Mm-hmm. Big differentiator.
Yeah, super helpful. Joyce Greggs, fun to talk to you today about a topic that matters to almost everybody on the planet. Thank you so much for joining us here on Radical TV.
Thank you, Shawna. It was really great. I really appreciate you.